On this episode of Star Trek Universe, I am sick. My throat is total crap. But SDCC happened, and we have a lot to talk about right after these words from our mystery... whatevers. I'm sick, give me a break.
No rest for the weary, my friend.
Or the wicked.
No rest for the sickly? Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends sit and chat about Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
Dave.
Yeah.
What's up, bud?
I don't know, man. Between Star Trek and DC, and honestly, I've been kind of a little bit keeping up with Marvel too, so I've just been like, it's been fine because I've been sick, and I haven't had much energy to do anything but scroll my phone, so seeing a lot of news and just going like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff came out of SDCC for sure. I mean, you know, we're dealing with it a lot over on MCU Cast, just the speculation about that big news. And yeah, DC, we talked about it on Multiverse News last night. DC had a bunch of like disparate stuff drop, you know, just like they're doing so much different stuff. In the DC realm, which is it's cool. It's interesting. The thing I talked about last night was the idea that like Marvel is trying to stop doing so much and concentrate down, and DC through success is now doing a lot of things. You know, like their stuff's been successful, and now they're gonna have like different TV shows and different Elseworlds and different whatever. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I'm interested to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. The big shock for me, and not that this is Star Trek related, but the big shock for me, I mean, actually, you know what it is? My Adventures with Superman, which feels to me so much like Lower Decks because Jack Quaid is playing Superman. Yeah,
you told me about that. It's so crazy.
And Lois kind of reminds me of Mariner there, and Jimmy kind of reminds me of Rutherford. He's a conspiracy theorist, and they're doing such a good job. People are like, it's been such a big hit. They've just been announcing new seasons like crazy. Wow. It feels like so. Yeah. And now this Batman Caped Crusader show coming out on Amazon looks dope as shit.
I hear that looks dope. I'm excited. Excited for all the DC stuff coming down too. But that's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. We're here to talk about the Star Trek stuff that dropped. No? We're not here to talk about Star Trek stuff?
Oh, no. I was saying we weren't here to talk about Batman.
Yes, that's true.
Or DC.
That's true.
I have a show for that. DC on Screen.
Yeah, people, check that out.
Maybe I'll be able to do the SDCC show I prepped for now that I'm evidently well enough to talk on a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, you know, some would say.
Albeit poorly.
Yeah. Okay.
Shut up, asshole.
Well, let's get into it. No, man, I think you sound great. I'm worried that you're going to be sore afterwards, but you sound great. You sound, you sound very, very deep, very rich.
Yeah, we're going to get it together.
Yeah, we're going to get it together. Okay.
My darling,
I have not heard any really news from the Star Trek realm, so tell me it all, man. Tell me it all. What's going on?
All right, Lower Decks, man. The season 5 teaser trailer. I sent it to you.
Yes.
What did you think?
It looks great. It's interesting. It's a little less laugh a minute because I think it's a little more like
we're
honoring.
Ending.
Yeah, we're ending. So we're kind of they're honoring the fact that they've had these 5 years of a TV show, and I think it's interesting. If I didn't watch Lower Decks, time goes so fast these days, and things fly by. If I didn't know that it was like, if I hadn't been watching this and doing this podcast, it's crazy that it's been on for 5 years. You know what I mean? And like this trailer might really bring me in because I'm like, really? They did 5 years? And seeing all those clips and stuff, the little clips they were showing of all the different things they've done and the different like parodies of other Trek stuff they've done, I'm like, this is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun.
The teaser itself is a parody of the Star Trek 6 teaser trailer.
Oh, weird.
I sent you that too. I didn't know if you saw that, but yeah, like the original teaser is like the whole of the Enterprise slowly going, and we're seeing clips from the original series and the other movies.
Huh.
And that damn thing makes me cry every time I watch it. Like, I just watched it again because I knew exactly what they were doing immediately when I started seeing this. I was like, oh, shit.
It's really funny. I knew that it seemed like an old-timey sort of way of making a trailer. Definitely more serious than Lower Decks has done in the past. And now, yeah, I'm watching the trailer you sent me for Undiscovered Country, and yeah, it totally is the exact thing. It's great.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the trailer looks fun. Like a lot, always funny. And did they know it was their final season when they wrote this season?
I don't think so.
That's a bummer.
And there have been some talks of maybe trying to get the fans. They've been kind of being like, oh, well, maybe we can get somewhere else or do movies or like if you want more, make sure you let us know.
Yeah.
Which is becoming a disturbing trend to put everything in the hands of us being vocal on social media, no matter what.
Well, I think in some ways that's always going to be, for many years now since social media has been a thing, it's been a way that shows get made. But I think that like a lot of these companies overextended, and now they're having to pick and choose. And what better way than to pick and choose what the fans want to see,
Yeah. But you will notice it as a trend on this episode of people saying that.
Okay.
But yeah, I love Mariner booing the quantum fissures out of boredom. Love seeing Captain Becky Freeman, Boimler with a beard, Cyborg Rutherford, like all of that was really cool. And I wonder if that's like the mirror universe or is it just a separate universe altogether?
Yeah, I was wondering the same
thing. I thought it was interesting that Mariner said this isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning, as if they are hinting at something else happening. Because like a couple of months ago when it was announced, it seemed like they were a little heavier on make sure everybody knows, like you talk about it on your social media and whatnot and make sure Paramount knows. And now they've kind of gone quiet a little bit. So I'm wondering if there might be something else coming, and I hope there is.
Yeah, me too.
Because I love Lower Decks, and man, I would hate to just lose it.
I love Lower Decks too. I will say, watching the little clips in this trailer made me think a lot about like how I should go back and rewatch, because there's a lot of Lower Decks now, and it's there's a lot of really funny little stories, and I'll remember the overarching plots to the stories, but I'm not gonna like those jokes are gonna be able to surprise me again. Like if I go back to season 1 now, and so it's gonna be a great thing in Star Trek to have this wonderful, like very bingeable, repeatable show that is going to be a lot of fun to just be able to revisit whenever we want. But
it is like we live in a strange time where I think Futurama's on their like 4th reboot. Where like they've come back again, and I mean I think Lower Decks could wind up coming back, at some point.
Yeah, well, and they could come back. They're the Lower Deckers, but after 5 years, they're starting to get promotions and stuff. Like it may be the thing where like they are Lower Deckers and they maybe come back for a reboot, but they're now Middle Deckers or something. Like they're now middle management of Starfleet, and that's a whole different conversation. Like who are the people that are just under the bridge crew,
Oh yeah, unnamed bridge crew,
Yeah, exactly.
I actually laughed at what crawled up her boob window and died.
Me too. That was funny.
And I laughed at unending pain. This is going to be Klingon as hell.
Very Boimler.
So they have a season 5 synopsis here. It says in season 5 of Star Trek Lower Decks, the crew of the USS Cerritos is tasked with closing space potholes, subspace rifts, which are causing chaos in the Alpha Quadrant. Pothole duty would be easy for junior officers Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford if they didn't also have to deal with an Orion War, furious Klingons, diplomatic catastrophes, murder mysteries, and scariest of all, their own career aspirations. This upcoming season on Paramount Plus is a celebration of this underdog crew who are dangerously close to being promoted out of the Lower Decks and into strange new Starfleet roles.
Strange new Starfleet roles.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that's interesting. That's interesting wording given the other shows that exist right now. That's fun.
So yeah,
when does that series start? The season start?
I didn't see.
October 24th.
Okay, sorry. I should have looked that up.
No,
I'm a bad news aggregator.
No.
I've been sick.
You're wonderful, sickly news aggregator.
Help.
All right, what else we got?
You mentioned it, so we can go right into that. Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. So there's a Strange New Worlds clip. Yeah, what did you think of this? It's a scene from Strange New Worlds where the crew becomes Vulcans. What did you think?
Oh, I hated it.
I hated it too. It's terrible. It's a terrible scene. I like if it weren't for all the like logic of Star Trek and the Vulcans clouding my thoughts, I might have been able to enjoy it. Like it has some funny moments, but it's so. It feels very much like Lower Decks instead of Strange New Worlds, which like I love Lower Decks. But part of the fun of Lower Decks is they get to be a little more loose with the logic because you're just going for jokes, you know?
I thought about that, and one thing about Lower Decks, though, is they will be loose with it, but they will also hang a lantern on it.
Right, totally. And this being a live-action show that's supposed to be serious to some degree, like, this felt really stupid.
It doesn't make any sense with what we know about Star Trek.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so, and they not only did they not hang a lantern on the fact that it didn't make sense, but they highlighted the fact that it didn't make sense by having them all go through their emotions being heightened at the beginning of the transformation. So it reminds the viewer, hey, Vulcans aren't emotionless. They have tons of emotions. Then they go through the Kolinar, and that's what, like, isn't that right? Kolinar, that's what the process
that's
of
my
purging
point,
the
is
emotions.
Like the Kolinar discipline you have to train for years.
That's my point. So they go through the Kolinar, and that's how they didn't go through the Kolinar. They just changed into Vulcans. So, like, why did they suddenly, like, achieve emotionlessness or whatever, perceived emotionlessness?
Yeah, that is completely stupid. Like, it really should have been more or less like, oh, hey, we're going to pretend to be Vulcans. Let's surgically alter you like McCoy did Kirk in the Enterprise incident.
Yep.
And they just go down there and do whatever they have to do. Yeah. But this is totally played for laughs. It's totally just like, and okay, not only do they just like suddenly become logical, which is not even a thing according to all of the history of Star Trek.
Right.
It's not a thing that Vulcans do. Mm-hmm. They're not born logical like that.
Right.
But they literally changed their fucking hairstyles.
Yeah. Yes.
While they were on the ground, like completely.
Right. I know. It's insane. It's an insane, like the logic of that scene makes no sense whatsoever. And I just like, it's really annoying because like, I'm all for good laughs. The idea that Spock is being annoyed by them being more Vulcan than him is funny. It's funny when he encounters actual Vulcans. Do that. Like, have him have to go to the planet with actual Vulcans. I just find, and it sounds like the whole episode is probably going to be about them being trapped as Vulcans, and the whole conceit makes no sense. I'm pretty annoyed with this clip. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And not only that, like, it's one of the things that, and every Star Trek show has done this. Every one of them. That after the original series, whenever they have a Vulcan, they do this bullshit where the Vulcans are like robots.
Right.
Like, Nurse Chapel, what is that sub-vocalization? Like, that, it's so annoying. You don't have to act like a robot just because you're logical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I hate that as well.
Like, the subdued emotions that they do is a thing, and like, you know, that's fine, but yeah, like it's they're doing it over the top to the point of like cartoonishness, which you've talked many times about how Leonard Nimoy is just kind of the master of like, the emotions are there, he is controlling them all of the time, and that's why it's so intriguing. And I think Ethan Peck does a really good job of that. In this clip, he's, you know, trying to restrain himself, but he's constantly like, there's a little extra pause when he needs to speak and say something that's that he's trying to not put emotion on. He's great at it. But when they do this sort of like mock Vulcan thing, it's not good. And just again, the conceit of it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, they needed a throwaway line about, like, we're also implanting, personality engrams or something. Like it doesn't make any sense with what the thing is supposedly doing. And to have it, like, show them go through the process of having emotions and then stand up is the dumbest way to do that. Like, the average viewer might let that slide if they hadn't reminded you, like, during the episode, that, oh yeah, Vulcans are really emotional. They just hide it well. And, like, it's dumb. It's dumb and poorly done.
Yeah. Agreed.
Hate it.
Agreed on all fronts. That was terrible.
Yep.
I did love Scotty, though.
Yeah, he was great.
I love Scotty. Hated Palia. Still. Just like, it's such a shame, too, because Carol Kane's natural voice would have been perfect for that character. She lived on Earth. She doesn't have to come up with a fake accent that you could barely understand. Whatever.
Yeah, I like her. I don't have a problem with her. But I know. But I know that's a thing for you.
But yeah, it just sucks because I really like Strange New Worlds generally, and man, that was an awful clip.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. We've been talking for all this time about how it's our favorite, like, it's like one of the best Star Trek things in a long time. It's doing such a good job with so much of Star Trek. Then that is such a bad. Why would you share that clip? Why? The only people who are watching that.
Why would you make that clip?
Right, but then the only people watching that clip ahead of time are, like, your biggest fans who know that clip is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
Yep. During the panel for Strange New Worlds, they revealed that the character Dr. Roger Korby, who was in the original series, is going to be featured in the third season as a recurring role.
Okay.
He's going to be played by Killian O'Sullivan from the Cold. He does look a lot like the original guy, Michael Strong, who played him, but like a much younger version. And, I don't know if you remember this. It's from the episode What Are Little Girls Made Of? Korby and Christine Chappell were engaged before he disappeared. And she's been part of the reason, they say in the original series, part of the reason she's in Starfleet is to search for him and try to figure out where he's at.
Okay.
But, of course, he turns out to be an android.
Okay. That's right. Like,
well, he was killed.
He was killed and then like comes back as like the version they find as an android.
Right. He basically like found a machine from Ancient Ones or some shit, the Elders, and figured like, oh my god, we can make androids. They made an android Kirk who thought he was Kirk for a minute. And,
okay.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway. So we've got there were a few little bits that I thought were interesting. They're going to be playing with different genres. Akiva Goldsman said, we obviously tested ourselves with the musical and we're so delighted by the result. We hear the clarion call of the original show, which is keep your stories emotional and then use genre as a lens to talk about today's problems, tomorrow's problems, maybe remedies, and also to entertain. So we have a lot of steady pulse, which is a little bit the Twilight Zone, a little bit of Oh Henry, what's the moral of the story, and then we have some sci-fi action adventure because that's the bread and butter of the narrative. And then we try, as the original series did, to reframe in genre. Jonathan Frakes has already shared that we are doing a Hollywood murder mystery, which we indeed are. Although I will say that, like the musical, it is rooted in Star Trek reality, so there's a reason for it. But we will do any genre that we feel the cast can work in, and so far we haven't found one that they can't. We're trying. But so far, they keep beating us to the punch. Akiva Goldsman also said that the little secret of their show is that although we have returned to episodic, we get to do serialized character arcs. And when you're trapped in a small or not so small spaceship with a lot of very attractive people, shit happens. So we are constantly trying to evolve what we secretly call love stories in space. And just to mix it up this year, you will meet Dr. Roger Korby, and that might throw a monkey wrench because, of course, Chapel and Spock are like, smashing nasties, as they say,
and have been very much like on the rocks. And it's interesting because, like, again, we're still waiting to find out if this whole time can change, and we know it can now on this show. So is it like, is that the future? And that's the kind of the question we've had with a lot of these storylines is like, is the original series evidence that is that the things in it are going to happen in this universe, or is this all like a different take on it? You know,
if they really want to get funny, I would love for like them to do just ridiculous shit like that clip, and then just have Wesley Crusher show up and be like, "That's not canon," and just like disappear again. Like, why not? Why not? They're already just like throwing out all any kind of serious.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, I was wondering, like, I hope this is a holodeck adventure. I mean, what the hell is happening right now? This is a really bad clip.
It's such a bad clip. We are getting more Scotty this year. He's becoming a regular.
Nice.
The Scottish actor Martin Quinn. Yeah. He did a fantastic job in that clip. He was the best part of that clip. And
I think Ethan Peck was pretty great in it too. It just
Ethan Peck was fine. You can't touch him. No notes.
Whoever wrote it is who I'm mad at.
Yeah. And then it got through so many levels. Like,
I
Jesus
know.
Christ.
That's what pisses me off so much. Ugh. We did a multiverse news, we call it tangent talk, where we do something sort of specific talk on our Patreon. And last night we talked about The Acolyte, and The Acolyte is a really cool Star Wars show. There's a couple moments in this, like in the exposition of the show, that make zero sense. Just zero sense at all. And they're big deals. And I'm like, why did they do that? I have no idea. As someone who watched it closely, I have no idea why they did that. And so I wanted to yell about it last night. So we did a tangent talk on it last night. And it's reminding me of that. It's like you said, it gets through so many levels. It pisses me off so much when something gets through so many levels and like the complete conceit makes no sense.
Yep.
Really, really annoying.
Actress Rebecca Romaine talked about what's new for Una in season 3. She says we're getting a lighter side of Una now that she no longer is hiding behind the shame of being an Illyrian, and we get to see a side of her you've never seen before. She's going to behave in a way you've never seen without saying anything. We can't say, what would the emoji be? Laughy tears? Horror crying?
Interesting.
So, okay.
Cool.
I'm down to see her be a little different.
Obviously,
I like character growth.
Obviously, this reminds me a little bit of Bashir, when he's been Bashir, and we love him, the lovable goofball, and then suddenly he's like beating everyone at darts, because he's like not holding back anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Una to not be holding back anymore.
Yeah. So during the audience Q&A, a fan asked what characters members of the panel would love to see on the show. And one of the showrunners suggested he would be interested in bringing back Odo.
Ooh.
Henry Alonzo Meyer says, I've always wanted to bring in Odo. I'm a Deep Space Nine fan, and I would love to see him return in some way. And I know there are reasons why it's not technically possible, but it is possible in the way we can do television shows. Which is a dumb statement. The way he said it is dumb. He wrote that clip, didn't he?
I blame him for everything. Like, I get you're okay, I'm annoyed now. Because, like, that just shows this idea that, like, okay, they're feeling creatively hemmed in by the canon. Which, like, okay, yes, that's what you get when you work on a show with a like deep canon, is you are creatively hemmed in by some of the decisions made before. But guess what you also get? A huge audience who cares about that canon. So don't fucking like disregard the parameters you're supposed to work within, you know? Like, there are clever ways to work around it. We've seen it with, like, Enterprise back in the day, doing some really clever stuff with canon, you know? I think about Klingons in those episodes and stuff. But, like, it really annoys me. The like, yeah, you can, sure, it's technically impossible, but we're making a TV show. We can do whatever we want. Is like not at all what I want from a Star Trek creator. Like, not at all.
Yep.
Because like, go make your own show. You want to make your own show? Make your own show. Like, and you know, convince me to watch it because it's good, and I'll probably check it out. But like, don't get on my Star Trek and like just disregard everything because you just feel like it.
And last time we talked on this show, I was talking about the merger a little bit and said that I have thoughts. And basically my thought is I am very worried because one, I'm excited / worried because the people coming in, like creators, actors, all these different people, directors were coming out and talking about how this is a great thing. The CEO dude from Skydance is, you know, they're really way more in favor of creative freedom than penny pitching and you know, gatekeeping what the creatives could do. Now, that could be really cool, or it could be like awful.
Yeah.
And in the case of Star Trek, I don't know how to feel. Like, I wouldn't mind having a separate universe as like a fun experiment, you know, like Tarantino or some shit, doing his own thing. But what I don't want is, say, like what we're looking at with like the Alien or Terminator franchises right now, where like Noah Hawley's doing Romulus, or Noah Hawley's doing, he's doing Fed Alvarez is doing Romulus, and Noah Hawley's doing a TV show, and they're not, neither one of them are canon, and it's just, or both of them are canon, but they're both contradicting, and I don't want that shit. I don't. Yeah. And every Terminator movie after number 2 is contradicted the canon, so nothing fits, and I don't want Star Trek to be that. Even
number 2 contradicted the canon.
I know,
and that's the thing. Like, but the thing is, they explain it, and that goes on for all of Terminator. And I don't mind you changing the canon. The thing with Terminator, their version of time travel is it rewrites the timeline constantly. So all the canon changes in the original. In Terminator 2, they had already passed Judgment Day. And they were like, we stopped Judgment Day, or did we? Like, that was the whole thing. And then 3 happens, and you stopped Judgment Day, or did we? And then it turns out you didn't.
And Star Trek set up that precedent too with the temporal wars and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you should just have shows that don't make sense.
Right. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Like, you can explain it. We all accepted 2009 Star Trek as Star Trek. Like, it's the Star Trek thing. It's not in the same universe, and you can do whatever you want. And like, if they say that and they're doing that, I'm even okay with that. I am sad to lose the Prime timeline, but at this point, so they're doing so many different things that are conflicting with the Prime timeline anyway, that I'm like, just say what you're doing. Don't try to like bullshit me and say this is all Prime timeline and then do everything else, you know?
Yep.
Like, 2009 Star Trek is a great example of like, it's completely changed, and we accepted it. It was great.
Yeah. And it's
whatever.
It's one of those things that people have said for years. It is true. Alex Kurtzman is not a fan of the original series. He's a fan of TNG, and he has made sure to rewrite as much as he could of it, and he's got to keep going. So, I choose to feel, as it is fictional, that the original series and all the things I like happened in their own timeline and are still there in the multiverse.
Sure.
And except for a couple of episodes which are just awful.
Yeah, those didn't happen anywhere.
And I will be throwing this Strange New Worlds episode with the Vulcans right in that pocket universe. There was another audience question asking about the musical style choices made for the Subspace Rhapsody episode, and Goldsman chimed in and said, "You'll be interested to know that we are in the very early stages of exploring whether or not we can bring a version of that to the stage.
Interesting.
Sounds like a waste of resources to me.
Yeah. I hear that.
They should really be focusing on making good Star Trek.
I don't know. They should make more episodes like this Vulcan thing. It seems like they're really doing some clever work there.
I don't know why Pike becoming a Vulcan means that he's suddenly like General Guile from Street Fighter.
Right. Well, see, this thing, I saw that.
The giant flat top.
And I laughed because they were basically making the joke about his hair. Like, now he's a Vulcan. Look how crazy his hair is in this form. But, like, the way you structured the scene makes no sense. Have them, like...
They literally had them change clothes at some point.
Yeah. Like, go mind meld with Spock and, have them freak out on the floor, then cut to them leaving a room where they mind melded with Spock to, like, download some Kolinar knowledge or something. It'll only work for a few hours, but it will be helpful or something like this. Like there you go. I just rewrote it. You can have all the same scenes, but it will make sense.
Yeah. Also, by the way, any other Star Trek show ever would be like, we don't know what this is going to do to you right off. You should all lay in the medical beds and as we hypospray you, and we're going to have you strapped in. Yeah. Just in case you have seizures, which they clearly did.
Yeah, well, I think they were just like freaking out emotionally is what they seem to imply.
I think it was both physical and because they were making like weird little cracky noises and
I don't know. Yeah,
they were twitching and stuff.
There was that one moment. It looked like Pike broke his arm or something for a second. I was like, "What? Yeah, dude, what?"
It looked like some Evil Dead Sam Raimi shit for just a second.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's weird.
All right, moving on. Over to Prodigy. Season 2 is coming to VOD, or it's already on VOD currently.
Cool.
And it will be coming to DVD and Blu-ray in November.
All right.
November 12th.
Cool.
Someone asked Kate Mulgrew if she would be interested in doing Janeway in live action again. She says, this thing is always going around and around and around because fans, I think, would very much like to see her reinvoked. But I talked to the Prodigy guys last night at dinner about this. One has to be very careful that the situation is not hubristic. That does not interest me at all because for the lack of a better word, and I loathe this word, the legacy is already in place. I was the first female captain. I gave it everything I had for 7 years, and it changed my life dramatically. To come back, it would have to be spectacularly good, and I don't know if that's possible. So, great.
Interesting.
At least, she's like, needs to be great. They asked her how she would feel if Prodigy wasn't picked up for more seasons. She said, I'd be really dashed if it weren't picked up. A part of me would really question, what are they picking up? What do they herald as great if not this animated series? Because it is unquestionably superior.
No, that's hubristic.
I know, right? That's what I thought. I was like, I wonder if Matt's going to say this is hubristic. Yeah, but I hope they do pick up Prodigy.
Oh yeah, me too.
And all they're saying is like, oh yeah, she was like pumping the fans, like, oh, you got to make sure that they know you want it. You get on social media, make sure Paramount knows.
Yeah.
So okay. Speaking of legacy, we also have Manny Cotto. Jesus Christ. Terry Matalas. I went back to 2005. Terry Matalas has been saying, like, look, it's not necessarily dead in the water. He's still having text conversations with people. They're still having ideas, and they could pick it up in a couple of years or whatever. It didn't have to start right at the beginning of where they left off on Picard.
Right.
But again, we got to make sure the fans want it. God. And the president said they didn't want to put too many things. We don't want too many premium shows out there right now.
Yeah, well, sure. I think that's true and that's fair. I want all of the everything all the time, but I will say the Marvel example is going to put a lot of these companies on their heels, I feel like, because Marvel was the biggest universe out there. Like, you know, they were on the top for 15 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And their Disney Plus adventures weren't even, like, most of them weren't poorly received. Like, especially early on. I mean, people really liked a lot of what they did.
Yeah.
But just the pure, like, making that much of it feels like it watered down the brand a lot. And now, and it even watered them down to a point that, like, even the movies stopped doing well. Like, you know, the thing they thought were so secure started doing worse because people were like, I can't follow it anymore. It's too much. Like, all these things. And so I think a lot of these shows are taking that, like, lesson to heart. And a lot of these universes. And I think it's a fair lesson to learn, but also, I want all the shows, you know?
Right. But, you know, it's also frustrating to me because, you know, they're making Starfleet Academy, which I am really on the fence about. And I'm actually more in favor of it now since SDCC. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But then you get news like this, and I'm not begrudging it. It's in development. It's not greenlit. It's in development, but there is an unnamed Tawny Newsome comedy, a live-action Star Trek comedy in development from Tawny Newsome and Justin Simien. You know Tawny Newsome. She's Mariner.
Yeah.
She's a writer on Starfleet Academy. And, the panel was moderated by Justin Simien, the writer-director of Dear White People, and the director of The Haunted Mansion, which I heard was awful, but I never saw. And apparently he's a really big fan, especially of The Next Generation. I feel like we keep getting that.
Well, that's the generation that is writing Star Trek now.
I know.
Pretty soon it's going to be all Voyager fans.
Maybe. I mean, we're getting a lot of Voyager stuff, though, too.
Yeah. Well, okay, so Tawny Newsome's making a show. Have they clarified if it's a Mariner show?
He said, I think she's show running it. With him,
no, I know, and I know she's been in the writer's room and stuff, but, like, they haven't talked about what it is.
Well, they are.
They are now. Please tell me what they think, what they're talking about.
He said, Tawny and I are pregnant with a Star Trek show. They gave cryptic clues about the series. They said there would be 25th century shenanigans, odd couple pairings, and apparently as Federation's outsiders serving a gleaming resort planet find out their day-to-day exploits are being broadcast to the entire quadrant. That's the basic synopsis so far.
Interesting.
Kurtzman said he became impressed with Newsome's work as a writer on Starfleet Academy, calling her a stone-cold assassin of a writer.
I love that.
Yep. So, Kurtzman, Simien, and Newsome, writers and executive producers with A.M. Bayers, and Rod Roddenberry, and Trevor Roth as executive producers. They're hoping to do it for Paramount Plus, but it hasn't been greenlit.
I kind of hope it's a Mariner show. You know, we were just talking about Lower Decks being possibly on the chopping block, or, it's supposed to be ending. And then we're talking about will they develop those characters further, and them talking about how it's not an ending and all this stuff. And a big part of Lower Decks has been Mariner figuring out whether she wants to be a part of Starfleet or, like, not really, like, her struggles with being a part of Starfleet and also dealing with the, like, ethical issues with being a part of Starfleet, you know? And I wonder if, like, the show could end with her leaving Starfleet, like, realizing that's her mother's dream, and then she goes and is a part of whatever this is, you know?
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting if that's what they did. And I feel like Lower Decks so far, or whether they're leaning this way or not, or really leaning in any discernible way, I feel like it's expected by the audience to think, she's coming to terms with being this responsible person, and she will wind up being
a captain.
And I think it would be really interesting if, like, say we see that Becky Freeman character.
Right.
Another version of her who became a captain, and she's just like, fuck that, I don't want that.
Yeah, this is not what I want at all. And I think that'd be a really bold choice for that show, and it's a pretty bold show, and I think it would be really interesting they've done a lot of questioning of Starfleet, and I think it'd be really cool if they like question it to the point that one of the main characters is like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I don't see Boimler leaving. I think Boimler is going to stick around, but who knows if they do like encounter something that is disillusioning of her, it might disillusion him too. And I can totally see them going off and doing a live action show that features those characters. Of course, it could be. I think it'd be really rad if it was Mariner, and it's 25th century, so it's the right time period. So yeah, do it. Like, do a Mariner show, and then Boimler as Jack Quaid could show up as her like Starfleet buddy that comes around every once in a while.
Yep,
that'd be really, really, really fun.
I'd be down for that.
I'm down. And an expansion of the Star Trek universe in a way we've never seen before, because like having a show about civilians or whatever, that's just something we've never seen. Like, closest is DS9, but like, it's about how a civilian population deals with Starfleet, not is separate from.
Yeah,
it sounds cool. Again, this is all speculation. It's cool that she's getting to write. I think that's really cool for her. But for my own purposes, I'm just sitting here trying to speculate about what that show would be.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm very curious. So the next piece of news is about Section 31. They dropped this teaser
for Section 31. I love it.
Okay.
I think it looks great.
Okay.
I'm really on board. What you're saying? Okay, I assume you may not agree with me.
Oh, I hate it.
Oh man, it got me going. It got me going. It's not. It looks a little like Star Wars. Actually, it doesn't even look Star Wars. It doesn't. It looks like Fifth Element or something. It has a real like action debaucherous vibe, like this sort of like they've got all these the dancers and the like they're in the bar setting. Like, it looks like Underworld meets, or like the Underworld of Star Trek meeting like the Section 31 characters doing. I really that actor who was like one of the actors says, yes, we can't trust her with our lives, but here we go. Like, the delivery was really tight. It seems funny. It seems more like almost. I mean, I know they're making it as a movie, and I've been skeptical of that because I thought they wouldn't go all in and make a movie. But to me, it looks like they made a movie. The quality of the cinematography and the acting and the humor and like the scope that they're going for, and like the completely different assets than normal Star Trek, like the mech suit and the characters, and like going for the sort of like noir, like sci-fi noir vibe. Like, I was into it.
Okay, cool.
What'd you think?
I liked the mech suit. That was kind of cool, but it also looked like, to me, a bad like Sci-Fi Channel movie of the week.
Oh, interesting.
And
yeah,
like,
bad sci-fi movie of the week won't have Beyonce though.
Huh?
Bad sci-fi movie of the week won't have Beyonce though.
And that was so dumb.
I loved it.
Because it's like, okay, ladies, let's get in formation. More than half of your crew are dudes. That's weird. It feels like it would have been in like one of those like all-female action movies on Netflix or something, not this.
Oh, I don't think it's about ladies, as in, I just think it's a cool Beyonce song. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that line, okay, ladies, now let's get in formation, is also, okay, ladies, now let's get information, which I think has always been a double entendre of that Beyonce song.
Yeah.
And like, it's a lady spy. I think it's a cool double entendre for the lady spy being like an intelligence agent for Starfleet.
And look, I don't want to poke the beehive, but I've never been a Beyonce fan. So,
oh man, you're poking it right in the eye over here. I am a Beyonce fan, and that song is badass. And I will be honest, I've been listening to Beyonce this week because of Kamala Harris. I really like the Freedom song that she's been using at her rallies and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm digging it.
Totally down with Kamala. Don't give a shit about Beyonce.
I was on the White Dudes for Harris call. I was.
Yeah. So I found the little. And look, man, I'm hoping this is just a bad trailer, and I see that the fandom's really split. I've been seeing a lot of people arguing for it, arguing against it. The preview was interesting. It said this preview contains misfit content as determined by Starfleet Command Media Division, colorful metaphors, disintegration, Deltan fraternizing, reference to unauthorized time jumps.
Oh man, that sounds great. The colorful metaphor. I feel like that is such a perfect thing, man, because it's like, it's funny. It's the Deltan fraternization is funny, like, but the colorful metaphors is such a callback to Star Trek 4 that it's like, oh man, yes, like that is what I want. Like that little nugget of like original series, like love mixed in with like the ethics of letting the freaking Empress like come over and like be and they're gonna deal directly with like, can they trust her, and like literally we can't trust her with our lives, but like that's kind of what Section 31 is like the people who can't do, the people who can do the things that no one else can do. And she's I'm excited, man. This looks cool.
Well, to me what was cool was the little flashbacks to her past.
Yeah.
I was interested in that.
Yeah, me too. We talked about that when they cast her family. We were talking about they cast members of her family for this movie, and I was like, I'm assuming that's going to be flashbacks. But I suppose if she's jumping into a different universe, she might end up bumping into them in our universe as well.
Well, it looked like the young Georgiou is like kneeling down beside an older woman who's on the ground. Yeah. Maybe her mother. I don't know. Just conjecture. But
yeah, I was thinking too.
That looked interesting. And, you got this guy saying you're a tyrant who murdered her own people. Your past will always catch up with you. And her response is, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Like, that was
but that's just Georgiou, though. That's just Georgiou. That's how she acted back in Discovery, too.
I mean, and then you had Rachel Garrett say Starfleet is here to make sure no one commits murder, and she goes, "What a cute idea!" It just feels like such a like rote, played spy / heist movie kind of thing that I just hate. I hope it's not that.
I hear you. I think it feels to me, as I said, like the style and everything feels very much like Fifth Element to me, and like using modern pop music, which I don't know that it will in the movie itself, but using the modern pop music feels. I feel like it's going to have a more modern aesthetic and a more like, hopefully, a more like energetic. Like the action sequences look fun. Like I don't know that this will be my kind of Star Trek, but it looks like a movie I'll really enjoy, and then it's set in the Star Trek universe, and I think it sounds fun. Georgiou can be a little annoying at times. Like she definitely is like, she has that like over-the-top Empress thing that she does, but in her quieter moments, there's moments where she's questioning herself, and I think that's what'll be interesting, is maybe she is that over-the-top when she needs it, and when she wants it, and that's who she tries to portray. But hopefully this movie will show those quieter moments where she's like is a more thoughtful human being.
And it could just be like a poorly edited trailer. We saw like Star Trek Beyond had that kind of trailer where it was just like, oh God, what is this? And then when you saw it, you're like, that might be the best Star Trek movie I've seen in 20 years.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about this trailer. To me, the quality level looks so high to me. Like I said, the cinematography, the acting, the effects, the setting, it looks like they've really gone out of their way to either scout or produce new sets that are nothing like Star Trek we've seen. And so I just feel like it feels like I'm watching a Star Trek trailer. When they said they were making like a straight to Paramount Plus movie, I was like, oh, this is going to be a basic Star Trek thing with like that's 2 hours long. I felt like it was going to be a 2-hour episode, and it looks to me like they're doing something much bigger than that.
Which I wish I understood why you felt that way, because to me it looks like those movies, those like direct to DVD movies that were like trying to rip off something that was kind of popular. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like this is like Guardian Squad of the Galaxy. It looks awful to me. It just looks so cheap so and funny. Played out.
It doesn't to me. I think it looks great. I think the acting looks really good in it. Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And we may feel very similarly. I could see me and you watching this movie and feeling our same positions after we watch the actual movie.
Yeah. I could also see us switching.
Yeah, totally. I also think it looks like it could be a pilot, too.
It does. Like, when they're all sitting around and he's like, oh, here we go. And she's like, someone's got to keep it lively. That feels like the end of a pilot episode.
It does. And so I'm wondering if, like, I know it was originally supposed to be a show and they transition to a movie. Like, maybe they will make the movie, and then if it does well, they'll be like, here's that show. It's backdoor pilot to this.
Or another movie.
Yeah, that's true.
As popular as she is now, I don't think a TV show is there for her anymore. Like, she doesn't have time for that.
Yeah. When winning the Oscar and stuff kind of put her on a different trajectory.
Yeah.
But I think it might be a really good fit for her if she wants it.
Yeah, absolutely. So they did talk a little bit about Section 31.
Yeah.
On the panel. They had cast members Sam Richardson, Omari Hardwick, and Casey Rawle, joining executive producer Alex Kurtzman and director Olatunde Osunsanmi. Which, by the way, Olatunde Osunsanmi, one of those directors on Discovery that every time I saw one of his episodes, I was excited because it meant it was going to be good.
Oh, good.
So
well, it sounds like they thought that too, and they gave him the movie.
Yeah,
that's great.
I'm hoping hard, man. I'm hoping hard. Osunsanmi says, what shocked me about Georgiou was that the writers killed her in episode 2. That took my breath away. And then I find out she comes back from the mirror universe. And watching how Michelle separated those two characters, one from the Prime universe, one from the mirror universe, was just fantastic to watch. And watching what she does in Section 31, which is essentially a third incarnation of the character because of all the nuance and the evolution that she went through to become who she is, and when we find her, was pretty special.
Yeah.
One of the big reveals was regarding the character being played by Sam Richardson, which, by the way, I love Sam Richardson. He was great in Ted Lasso.
Let me look up Sam Richardson. Who do you play in Ted Lasso?
He was that dude who tried to recruit
the
character Sam.
Yes, I really like Sam Richardson a lot. He was the actor I was talking about. I'd forgotten him in Ted Lasso, but I didn't recognize him at first. But I think he's great in Ted Lasso, but he's also he was the one that I was pointing out that I really liked his deliveries in the trailer.
He is playing a character named Quasi, and he says, I play a species, I'm not human. That is a second iteration of it in all of Star Trek. I play a cameloid, which the first time you saw was Iman playing it in Star Trek 6. So he's a shapeshifter.
Oh, yeah, those eyes, yeah.
Kurtzman says, very, very useful to be a shapeshifter in the spy world. Let's see what else. But Casey Rawle playing the younger version of Rachel Garrett, the captain of the Enterprise C from TNG's Yesterday's Enterprise. She said, it was such an incredible honor to play that character. It's just mind-blowing. I've been describing it like a warm bubble bath entering this world. It's really, really lovely. And obviously the character of Rachel Garrett is so cool. I am just incredibly honored to have watched that episode so many times now. And shout out to the original Garrett actress, Trisha O'Neill. It's just really exciting. My face hurts.
Love that.
So,
and it's such a cool thing to like tie to a, previously used character from Trek, like what they're doing. It's really neat.
Someone we know nothing about.
Yeah.
I'm curious what they do with her. That has been the most interesting thing about this movie that I've heard the whole time. It's just like, wait, Rachel Garrett? What?
Yeah. I need to go back and rewatch that episode because I don't really remember much about it. We talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show.
I mean, she's not in it a whole lot. She's there for a second, and then there's an attack. She gets killed, and then it's all about really Tasha Yar. Like, that's it. Like,
yeah, okay.
And Shooter McGavin. I never know that guy's name in real life.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, guy. I really do apologize. I'm bad at this.
Yeah. The trailer showed how the streaming movie was a different take on Trek. Kurtzman talked about the approach, said Star Trek, obviously from TOS, has this incredible storied history of playing in genre space. Sometimes you'll get a horror episode, sometimes a comedy, sometimes a musical. I think this is in some ways a natural extension of what you could do in the world of Star Trek the more you start spreading out, because this is spy-fi. The idea of doing a spy movie in the world of Star Trek is super interesting and feels like a really cool way to keep Star Trek growing. The other that is great is because Rachel Garrett is in there, and we tie very specifically into canon in Star Trek. I was very excited about that. It does have a different tone. It's very fun. We are almost finished editing, and it is just a ride from beginning to end. It's very, very fun, and hopefully it'll be the first of more. We do not just for Section 31, but if you guys like it, we'll end up doing more of those movies.
Very cool.
So, they're still editing. I'm hoping maybe people will be like, we don't like these dumb lines. And, okay, cool. We don't like the and look, man, there are things like Aquaman, for instance, that did like $1 billion. The first Aquaman did like $1 billion at the box office, over $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like it.
Right.
It's just not my thing. So as Star Trek expands into other genres, I'm bound to not like some shit because the spy genre is not really a thing that I care anything about.
Oh, man, I love a good spy movie.
I know you do, and you like a good heist.
I do. I love a heist.
I just hate them. Generally. Like, not all the time. Not every time.
Love a heist. Love it. And I do think that, like, if it's a heist, I hope it's a good heist. I think, like, that's one thing I don't love. In Marvel, Ant-Man's supposed to be a heist movie. And yeah, it is. But, like, I like Ant-Man as an action-adventure comedy. I don't think of it as a heist movie at all. Well,
the heist part was they heisted an entire cinematic universe to tell kind of a dumb story. That didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I hear you. I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Are you talking about like the power set? Are you talking about the
power set doesn't make sense mostly, but I also think it was a very rote, very like by the numbers formulaic movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm kind of getting at. Like, and I don't hate it. I just don't like them calling it a heist movie throughout the marketing, and then seeing it, I felt like it's a fine little Marvel movie, but it's just not a heist movie in my opinion. It doesn't feel like it. Like, yes, he's a thief, and they do plan a heist at the end, but like, it just doesn't have the style or panache of a heist movie.
And I'm not saying this is a heist movie, but it has those. It's bringing heist movie vibes in this trailer.
Yeah. And I think that's really what I'm talking about with Ant-Man. Ant-Man, I think that doesn't have heist movie vibes.
Yeah.
Even though
is it really a heist movie if someone doesn't say, "You son of a bitch, I'm in"?
Maybe not, man.
You know that Rick and Morty bit, right?
Yeah, vaguely. I forgot it was Rick and Morty bit, but yeah, now you mention it.
Dan Harmon also hates heist movies, but did a whole heist episode where everyone they recruited said, "You son of a bitch, I'm in."
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now, here you go. Omari Hardwick, who plays a character named Olak Sahar, is best known to fans of the show Power. And he offered his take on the movie. I would say Guardians of the Galaxy on steroids. There's humor, ass kicking, you have a love story somewhere in there if you guys want that. It doesn't really sound very enthusiastic, does it?
If you guys
we got a love story in there if you guys want that. Some bullshit. We have all these people who are no strangers to the Star Trek universe. What Alex and Tunde wanted from us was to make a messy version of the Star Trek world, and so what you have is a beautiful mess, and we are very honored to bring it to you. All right.
Yeah, sounds great to me. I think it looks great, sounds great. I'm in. All right, motherfucker, I'm in. What is it? Yeah. What was the line?
All right, okay, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Okay,
or you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Something you like son that. Of a bitch, I'm in.
Now called upon to recant it, I can't. Starfleet Academy, they announced that the British comedian and actress Gina Yashir, who created Bob Hart's Abishola, the show on CBS, has joined the cast of the first season of Starfleet Academy as an Academy instructor in a recurring guest star role. We haven't talked about this, and I don't know any of these people, but they did announce a bunch of cadets: Carice Brooks, Bella Shepard, and George Hawkins, Kareem Diane, and Zoe Steiner. Don't know any of those actors. Apparently, they do have one more role they need to cast. But here's something interesting and very, very exciting.
Okay, I'll do it.
So we know that it's set in the 32nd century. It follows Discovery. Mm-hmm. They have a series regular, Tig Notaro.
Okay.
So Jet Reno's back.
Cool.
In a regular role. Oded Fehr as Admiral Vance is coming back in a recurring role.
Nice. Okay, so it sounds like it's set in that time period for sure.
Yeah. And, actually it says that Admiral Vance is going to be a guest star, as well as Mary Wiseman playing Tilly, who's just going to be a guest star.
Oh,
Thank you, God. I can't take no more Tilly, y'all. I just can't.
Yeah. All right, well, interesting. That's weird. I really thought for sure Tilly was going to be one of the crossover characters for that show. And I mean, she will be, but like as a guest star and not a recurring. Interesting.
So here's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Another series regular. Robert Picardo as the Doctor.
Oh.
Boom.
As the Doctor?
Yeah.
Not just a doctor or an EMH, but the Doctor?
It says Robert Picardo reprising his Star Trek Voyager and Prodigy role as the Doctor.
Wow. That's huge.
Series regular.
Wow. He's going to now have been he's going to be on more episodes of Star Trek than anyone else.
No, he won't.
I don't know. Depends on if
Michael Dorn's got it, man.
Well,
someone's going to have to put in a lot
for now, but yeah, I mean, he's got, if this show goes, which who knows?
Which he'll do 8 to 10 episodes.
It's true. It probably won't be as many. But he came to DS9 on season 3 or
4, I think.
3 or 4. So he's on like 7 seasons of TNG and like 3 to 4 of DS9. I was thinking seasons. You're right. It's going to take Picardo forever to catch up if they're doing 10 episodes a season.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to crap on Picardo, but like just now we've also got Star Trek Picard that Worf was in.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's got like 10 of those episodes as well. It's like, man, Michael Dorn's just got to keep that title for a long damn time.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how many the Spiner's done now, because he was on all 3 seasons of Picard.
But sparingly.
Yeah, sparingly. On some of the seasons for sure. But he's in a number of episodes, especially in that second season. He's in a lot of those episodes, and the third season.
Now it doesn't count for like the new stuff because I haven't checked since then. But back a few years ago, I did look, and he was like, Michael Dorn was so far ahead in like hours logged on Star Trek that like it was just madness. Like it would just be really hard for anybody to catch up, especially with 10 episode seasons.
Yeah.
And mostly just because of, he was on DS9 for whatever it was, 3 years. 3 or 4 years.
Oh yeah, of course. It's Michael Dorn, and then right behind him is Cole Meany.
Oh, that Callum Meany, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Like
he was also on DS9 and TNG.
Yep.
Sorry, this is a real. We've got a lot of news, and this is a real. Jump away
almost
from
done. We're all right.
Wait, and then it's got Majel Barrett listed, which I know, she's the computer, so it makes sense. But I would think she'd be in even more than the other two of them, if she's the computer. But I guess not.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to Star Trek 4, which is also still in development. They've got that other movie, that unnamed origin movie that they're planning.
Mm-hmm.
But they've also got the Star Trek 4, the Kelvinverse sequel that's in development.
Okay.
Chris Pine has been coming out and bitching more and more about this thing. About them not being able to get it together. And he was talking about it recently. He said, "I think what we found is that we've captured an audience with the Trek universe that may not have come to us, but generally speaking, it's the diehards. I think we should make films that appeal to people who want to see the film. I'm sick of trying to please people who don't want to see what we do. We're in a place where to make a film, you make it for $500 million. That's $500 million to make these films that you like. For it to be considered successful and everyone to be paid back, you have to make extraordinary amounts of money. The metrics of it don't seem to make much sense to me. I think we just make a much smaller film that's more story-driven, more character-based. There's less shit exploding, and maybe do it that way." Yeah, he does say, though, the fan base has always been very kind to me. He says there are, trolls out there, but, in general, people really liked what he did. So, yeah, I want to see more Pike, especially, Pine, especially 10 years removed, almost.
Yeah.
They've got the Enterprise A now from Star Trek Beyond. They built a new ship at the end of that one. Let's get into some, movie era stuff. They're of that age. Pine looks old as shit. That dude went from being Captain Kirk 90210, I swear to God, from that to Silver Fox. And it felt like 3 years. I know it wasn't just 3 years.
It's been 15 years since that. So that happens, someone comes in their 30s. Now they're in their mid 40s.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Time is passing, my friend. We're all dying.
It is crazy. So, the last little bit, I think that's the last bit of news. Yeah. There was a panel that was celebrating Intergalactic Friendship Day on Tuesday, July 30th.
Okay.
And they did this big Star Trek and Doctor Who panel where Kurtzman and Russell T. Davies were on the panel together.
Yeah.
They were promoting a game, a mobile game.
Yeah.
Doesn't look interesting to me. Might be interesting to you. But it is from Eastside Games, Star Trek Lower Decks Mobile, and Doctor Who Lost in Time. They're going to do a big crossover where the Doctor goes over to Lower Decks onto the Cerritos, and Boimler and Mariner go over into Doctor Who, the universe. It says, beginning August 1st, fans will be treated to the same thrilling story experienced from two unique perspectives when a mysterious space-time ripple that throws the Doctor on board Star Trek Lower Decks' USS Cerritos, while Lieutenant Brad Boimler and Ensign Beckett Mariner find themselves thrust into the enigmatic Doctor Who universe. With the ripple disrupting the very fabric of reality, the Doctor must join forces with the resourceful crew of the Cerritos, while Boimler and Mariner team up with the legendary River Song. Together, they race against time to repair the ripple and set things right. Now, that's fine. I'm happy for that. It's not the first time Doctor Who and Star Trek have crossed over.
Right. And it's been comics for sure.
The comics, absolutely, they've done it several times, and not even in an unofficial capacity. Back in the 70s, they were doing fanzines, mail-in fanzines and shit with the Fourth Doctor hanging out with the crew of the Enterprise. But this was interesting though. They're really setting it up, talking about like what the showrunners or what the showrunners think the franchises share. Kurtzman said Doctor Who and Star Trek share such a deep history as these two incredibly storied franchises. I think we share values. I think we share perspectives of the world. I think we want to tell stories that are illuminating about the human race. Each iteration of the Doctor and each iteration of Trek has endeavored to do that for every generation that it serves. And I think that is what our friendship is about, is that beautiful connection. Davies said, in a way, the difference between the two shows is one is military and one is not. Star Trek is more military, and the Doctor would never join the military, and the military would never put up with that idiot. There is unit, Davies. Anyway, they have monsters and adventures every week and fights and chases, and yet they've never come together. And yet what I love about Star Trek is that it's not about the military. It's about the friendships. It's Kirk and Spock and all of those things. And, they sucked each other's dicks for a little bit, gave compliments for each franchise and whatnot. Davies said Michael Burnham brought him back to Star Trek, and now he watches everything. And Kurtzman became, as we all did, most of us did, became more aware of the Doctor during the Eccleston years. Mm-hmm. And loves Shooty and what he's doing, and loved Tennant. But when asked if they would ever see the franchise work together on television or film, Davies said, we would love to announce a crossover between Star Trek and Doctor Who. If anyone can make that happen, fans can make that happen, and then two great big empires and their lawyers would have to make that happen. We can do that, can't we? That opening video literally shows what it could be. They had an opening video. What it could feel like, the joy of it. It must happen. And Kurtzman agreed, saying it must happen. So, to round out this whole episode, to finish it off, once again, they're saying, fans!
Yeah.
Let us know. So, okay, let's look at the rundown. What are we petitioning? Can we just petition every day for just the list of demands? Star Trek Legacy, Cisco show, Wesley Time Traveler, show, Star Trek Lower Decks being renewed, Star Trek Prodigy being renewed, more Section 31 movies. Jesus Christ, it's a cross to bear, man. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, man.
Do some fucking split testing, for Christ's sake. Stop making it our responsibility.
Well, I appreciate that they want my input. I don't get into all the petitions and such, but I think there's a place for it. That's what we do. We make podcasts, and if they want to listen and find out what we think, we're here.
Yeah. It's and that's also what's bugging me, is because over and over, they're like, tell us what you want. You got to tell us what you want if you want it to get made. And everyone came together and screamed Star Trek Legacy for weeks. And they were like, well, we don't want to push too much out right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
How about this Tawny Newsome comedy? What?
Yeah.
I get they're going to do Starfleet Academy because it was already deep in development.
Right. I like the Tawny Newsome comedy show. It's also, it kind of goes with that thing you talked about with the Star Trek movies going to a little cheaper model. It seems like a Star Trek show where they're civilians and they're dealing with something completely different feels maybe can be cheaper than making a big action adventure show.
One would hope.
Yeah.
Indeed. And I'm fine with it. I don't begrudge any show getting made. It's not zero sum, except it kind of is, because they just said, no, we don't want to do it all at one time.
Yeah, which is fair. They don't want to do it all at one time, but I do think they need to be, they need to make some shows that are what we really, really want, and I do think Legacy, there are more fans that want a show like Legacy than I think anything else. And I think Strange New Worlds has been really successful because it's similar enough to the spirit of what Star Trek has always been.
Yeah, and they're all hitting ever since the Nielsen has started monitoring Paramount Plus, every Star Trek show. And, it was a big deal that, oh my God, Picard is hitting so high on the top 10 every week and whatnot. But Discovery did too.
Okay, good.
They're doing well. Prodigy did pretty well.
That's
for
rad.
A kids show, especially.
Yeah,
quote unquote kids show.
Yeah.
So
cool. All right. Well, is that the news?
That's it.
Do you want to see a Doctor Who and Trek crossover?
I'm a little torn. I am so behind on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That feels a little.
Where'd you stop?
The last thing I saw officially was the final Christmas special with Capaldi.
Okay.
I saw him, or whatever it was. I saw him regenerating to Jodie.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have access to it for a long time. And then, and I was also just busy and had other things going on.
Yeah.
Just kind of kept going, I'll get to it. Keep in mind, this was all during the me doing a DC podcast. This was during the CW onslaught.
Yeah, where y'all are covering
shows.
Every show every day, basically, right?
Yeah, just like barraging the hell out of me for years. Mm-hmm. So now I'm a little footloose, and I want to catch up, but I'm trying to get caught up with my wife, and she hasn't watched Capaldi, so like she's we're trying to remember to get back and do that.
I jumped into it when Tennant came back. I'd seen a big chunk of Whittaker, but didn't make it all the way through. And then when Tennant came back, I jumped back in. And I watched this season. I watched all of Shooty's first season because my niece was digging it. So, and I didn't feel. Yeah, it's pretty good. Some really good moments. I think there's something about that show that is frustrating to me, and it is that like it always feels like it has the biggest stakes, but nothing ever really changes. Yeah. So it's like the world. Every episode is every season is world-ending stakes. But like there have never like the show is still the show, which like I know that's sort of the charm of it. But I think I get a little tired of seeing the same, the same formula, I guess. Like I like kind of wish there was a little more like stuff that the Doctor as a character would go through, which is hard because he literally like not only does the actor change, but the character changes a little bit when he regenerates. So you get these like throwaway lines where the Doctor talks about, I used to be this way and now I've changed to this and so, but it's like, I can't really always track that. So so I think in general, I think I'm a little bit like, I don't know if I'm burnt out on Who, but I enjoy it episode by episode though.
Yeah. Well, as far as things never changing, here's something that's like, I've been wanting to get back into it but now I'm looking at what they're doing right now and I'm like, I don't like the bi-generation because now they're saying, oh, well, every Doctor has regenerated and every Doctor has not regenerated. So there's a version of every Doctor there's ever been still floating around out there. And
wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
The bi-generation thing, right?
Okay.
How Tennant and Shooty separated?
Yeah, I know that happened, but it didn't happen to every Doctor that I know of. It just happened.
Oh, no, it did. Because now there's like a memory TARDIS or something in a separate series that you can't watch in this country. But they also referenced it in the final episode, apparently, of this new season where like the memory TARDIS came in and there's like another older version of the Doctor in there or something. I don't know.
No.
But no, Russell T Davies has actually come out and said, I don't know all the specifics, but Russell T Davies has come out and said every Doctor who's ever existed is still out there because they all bi-generated.
Okay, nothing on the show has led me to believe that. And are you sure that he doesn't just mean every Doctor is still out there because they're time travelers and they're
old versions of the Doctor hanging out in something called a memory TARDIS.
Okay, yeah, there is something called a memory TARDIS. Like, I don't know if they called it that on the show. There's something to that effect that happens in one of the final episodes of the season, but like it doesn't. It has some references to old Doctors, but it does not. On screen, does not imply that there are other Doctors running around.
Well, on screen there is like a mini series. I think it's called Tales of the TARDIS or something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to actually look into it, but it's like some kind of web series that I don't even think we can get.
I'm sure we can get it online somewhere.
VPN, yeah, I mean, we could pirate it or something.
Or VPN it or something like that. But yeah, I don't know anything about that. I've just watched the series, and I don't know what you're talking about. There's none of that is on screen. On the mainline show.
Either way, with Russell saying that, it makes me feel like there really are no stakes.
Yeah, I hear that. I think like that's like there was a time when I used to watch the show, you know, be really excited for the show and excited about what's happening in the season and stuff. And that time has sort of passed, and I think part of it is that, like, I remember watching the episodes where, like, I don't know, they combined, like, all the Torchwood people came over to be on a big Doctor Who episode, and it was like all these characters interacting, doing one big mission, and that mission felt
cinematic universe.
Yeah, and it felt real, but it felt like there were lots of stakes around it. It felt like there was something going to happen, and you know, inevitably they solve the problem, and then it sort of just resets to one. You know, and like I'm, you know, I don't know. I get that that's kind of essential for a show to keep going, to have sort of a reset and like a place where it rests, but. It just, I think I don't know. With Doctor Who, I've gotten a little, I enjoy an episode, but I don't. It's hard for me to care about the overarching story because I feel like it's not going to do anything. Now, it has the opportunity to. I feel like in some of the Tennant era, you cared so much about the other characters, and so much was invested in the other characters that, like, I really cared about what happened to Rose, and Rose could absolutely die. Rose could absolutely go through major things. Jack Harkness could go through major things and does. And maybe I don't know. Maybe I just haven't connected with any of the newer characters as much.
Yeah,
but
if you're looking
I don't feel that way.
If you're looking to try to get back into Doctor Who, for people like us, I think caring about the arcs of the companions. And choosing to see the Doctor as just another thing that happens to them,
right? Yeah,
is the way to go, because the Doctor story will never end.
Right. Well, and that's the. I think the strength, and that's what they've tried to do. I think all the seasons, recent seasons, especially when there's a new Doctor and they introduce a new companion. They almost always start with an episode that's like from the companion's perspective, you know, like the first episode with Rose, first episode with, like almost all of them. And it's a smart way to start because you're like, okay, he is the tempest that flies into their world, but it just, I don't know. The stuff that really gets me going is when there's like a big, you know, the war is happening. I guess like with, we've talked about this a lot, but with like Star Trek, you introduce new cultures and new races, and they expand, and you learn about them, and they're your enemies, and then they become your friends, and like as they expand chronologically, you have those things you encounter. And with Doctor Who, it's like generally the Daleks are just going to be the Daleks, and the Cybermen are going to be the Cybermen, and you just kind of go back to those same characters, and they're interesting the first few times, but then like. They adapt them and try to change them and grow them, but they always kind of like go back to their core purpose on the show. Like I really like how in Star Trek the Klingons become, you know, a crew member by TNG. You know what I mean? And then like, and then it become by DS9 they're like allies and friends and fellow warriors. And you sort of see the like political and cultural shifts that happen along the universe, and partially because it's a time travel show and they're jumping around, that can't really happen. And so it's just not the same show, and I feel like, and it's part of my problem, as we've many times talked about, with the prequelization of all these shows where we're doing prequels, and because I can't see the advancement of the storyline. The overarching storyline is having no advancement, because it's impossible to advance if you're jumping in time. You don't have a present to think about and to worry about, and like, will these guys be their friends? Will these guys destroy the Federation? Will these guys be able to do this? It just, There's no, all stakes are removed and everything's just an individual story, which is fine. But the whole point is to have a cinematic universe that you see moving forward. Like, that's the exciting part, is the cinematic universe for me. And I feel like Star Trek and Doctor Who and, Star Wars and Marvel with the multiverse, like, it's all the stakes are getting removed through all these different ways. And it's a bummer.
Yeah, I agree.
I miss Buffy, where it's like you got a story moving forward and then you have another story moving alongside it, and they're moving in conjunction with each other, and things are happening that affect each other, and like they're moving through the world together. And when something big happens, you're like, oh, how is that going to affect these guys over here? And like, yeah.
I will say someone who did it really well, did the prequel so well that it's scary because it was also a sequel. Better Call Saul.
Yes, it absolutely did. And that's the thing. It kept reminding you of what the present looks like. And like everything in that show is background information. And it's all interesting because you also just don't know that much about his life, It's that is a really good example of how a prequel can be done extraordinarily well.
We had a ton of characters that we had never met before in Breaking Bad who were integral to his life, and we were like, what happens to them?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. And that's the thing, like, a lot of times these shows, especially genre shows, because what happens, I think, with genre shows, and I'm sorry, we're going way long because we've gotten in this conversation that is completely not about the news anymore. No,
we're talking about our opinions on this shit.
Yeah. One of the things that happens with genre shows is they get focused on the accoutrement instead of the story. So, like, instead of Star Trek, to me, is about that overarching story of hopefulness about the future and the way that culture and interacting with other species and all that stuff that can change the world. And, like, you see the big overarching things happen, right? But if you lose sight of that, it can become a show that's just about laser fights and, like, making people into Vulcans, and like it's no longer a show about the advancement of the story. It's just a show about, like, let's like bear down on these little things that the show sort of exists within. It's not supposed to be what the show's about, I guess. And I think that that's a problem with all of the cinematic universes we're talking about.
Yeah,
it's like, let's talk more about Yoda and less about what the fight is going to be, or like what the next thing, what the advancement is. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I kind of don't give a shit. If Doctor Who and Star Trek crosses over, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I feel either. I don't have a strong opinion about it.
Crosses over where? Will it be 32nd century? Will it be...
Yeah, that's a good question.
23rd century?
Well, that's the thing. He's got a TARDIS. Once he's in our universe, he can hop around. I mean, and now I'm suddenly, like, once I start thinking about the details, I get excited. Like, he gets over here, and then you got a TARDIS. Then you can take any of your characters from Star Trek, and you can Bill and Ted that shit. You could, like, jump around and have a TARDIS full of, like, your favorite Star Trek characters going to do some big mission. Like, you could have Boimler. He goes and meets Boimler, and then Boimler's like, he's like, we need the best engineer. We need an engineer who can handle this. He's like, well, Geordi LaForge is one of the best engineers in Starfleet. Oh, great call. We need someone who can handle diplomacy for this. Who's a great diplomat? Spock. And it's just like, and then Boimler starts putting together like a fan fiction team of like fun people, but it's sort of based in like the reality of the Star Trek, Dude, that's funny that you say that, because that is what they're doing in the ongoing Star Trek comic book right now. Like, Sisko returned from the wormhole and gathered a crew from the ages, like Spock and Data and a bunch of different people, and it's like sort of like that comic book, The Exiles or Sliders or something, where he's just like, people, you lose people, you bring more people in or whatever. But it's like Sisko trying to prevent some war of the gods or some shit. Like, I haven't been able to read it all, but
They're riding around in a ship that Scotty built.
Nice.
Called the USS Theseus, which can always be like replaced. It's like designed to be replaced continually over the years. Like,
okay.
It's got like a core. There's a core ship, and you could just upgrade it with new technology.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And keep it going forever. But they just like fly around time and try to like figure out how to stop this war or whatever.
That's funny. I love it.
Yeah.
That's definitely like exactly the kind of fan fiction-y show I'm talking about. Which I think if you're already crossing over Doctor Who and Star Trek, if you're already going to make that leap, like go with it. Just go for it. Go as fan fiction-y and silly as you want to go.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm excited about all the news, man. It's gonna be good. Like, you know, I don't feel like we got anything revolutionary this Comic-Con, but like, you know, little pieces of things. It feels like you said, a lot of fans, what do you want to see? So
yeah, I don't know, after that Strange New Worlds clip, I kind of want to start a revolution.
Yeah. I know, it sucks because that's been one of my favorite shows with some wonderful episodes, and that thing was trash.
So bad. Anyway.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon, bud. Joel on True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.